it begins. Okay. Now, before we get into this, all right. I'm gonna try to bring it down, because if I can't, then this entire video is just going to be gibberish from start to finish, all right? So I'm gonna try to rein it in here. You know, if you don't read spoilers, that's fine. You know, a lot of people want to just be surprised on the day of the chapter's release, but you gotta understand, this week, the hype has literally broken through the exosphere and is now somewhere around Saturn. So it's like the spoilers, like they permeated everything. It's just like it's something's big. It's coming, guys. It's coming, bigger than Nami's boobs. Oh, way bigger than Nami's boobs. I'm just gonna tell you straight out, all right, in case somehow you're not aware of this, and to give, you know, like some understanding of where this is coming from. In this chapter, we not only find out the bounties of all the current YONKO. That means, well, we already knew Blackbeards, but that means Big Mom, Kaido, and Shanks. We also, as like the icing on that cake, not even really the icing on the cake, like the double-decker ice cream sundae on top of the cake. No, back up again. The double-decker ice cream sundae on top of the cake sprinkled with cocaine. We also get the bounties of Whitebeard and Goldie Roger. Do you see where this is coming from now? You should also be in this level right now. You know, every now and then people send comments like, Tekking, I like your videos, but you gotta dial it down a notch, bro. You're just way too hyper. Well, congratulations, okay? Because if there's any chapter that gets you into Tekking land, this should be it. This feeling that you're experiencing right now, this is me pretty much 24/7. Let's get into this. One Piece chapter 957, also known as the greatest damn chapter that ever existed on this planet, also known as Ultimate. Let's just bring it down to Ultimate, okay? I think Oda was like, okay, you know what am I gonna call this? I'm just gonna call it Ultimate. It's the Ultimate chapter. Here you go. There's really nothing else beyond this. All right, so we start off at New Marineford, you know, sponsored by McDonald's, because it's got the Mickey D arches behind it. You got Akainu talking to Fujitora. Fujitora's not there. He is somewhere else in the world. He's aboard a ship that's actually being attacked right now. Fujitora looks a little bit banged up. He has some bandages and some, you know, gauze on his face, you know, so that was probably from his brawl he had at Reverie with the Revolutionary Army commanders, so there was definitely some bloodshed there. Not really going to go too much into that, because I just did a whole video about that last night, so you can just go see that if you want more information about the whole, like, what's up with Sabo thing. Unfortunately, we don't get any more, you know, information regarding Sabo or the newspaper article, but that's kind of fine, considering we get the bounty of Goldie Roger in this chapter. All right, so they're talking about the abolishment of the warlord system. Specifically, Akainu is kind of like telling Fujitora, like, well, I guess you're pretty happy, aren't you, Fujitora? Because this is what you wanted all along. And Fujitora was just kind of like, you know, yeah, I did want this. You know, this is kind of what has to happen now. It's all up to the SSG from now on. So the SSG, we're going to find out what that means later, but that's actually like the special scientific group of the Marines. Basically, like, probably headed up by Vegapunk, developing weapons that could be as strong, if not stronger, than the warlord system was. Alright, so we don't really find out much more about the SSG in this chapter, but definitely more of a shift from using pirates as a weapon to using science as a weapon. Hopefully Senku will also be recruited into this new group. I'm very excited for that, okay? But yeah, Fujitora's like, hey, it happened, no going back now, it's full steam ahead, we just gotta put our faith in science, basically. Now, something I do want to mention is, we don't know where Fujitora is at right now, but his ship is under attack. In fact, while he's having a conversation with Akainu, like, his ship is rocking back and forth, and his men are running around like, fire the cannons, fire back! Meanwhile, Fujitora's just sitting there on deck having a chat with Akainu. We do see a Sea King attacking their ship, Admiral Fujitora's fleet. And where are their Sea Kings? Well, the Calm Belt, and where are they attacking right now? out? Probably Amazon Lily, which is also located in the Calm Belt, which is where we saw Kobe heading last chapter, because it's the abolishment of the warlord system, and it would make sense that if you were going to guarantee their capture, you gotta send the admirals. Actually, sending Fujitora to Boa's island is actually the smartest move, because, you know, any person that witnesses my form will be turned to stone by my beauty. Well, I'm blind, so... And then Boa's like, oh crap, I didn't think of that. You know, like, so that is the smartest move if that is indeed where they're going, but they're having a naval battle with a Sea King right now, so that's probably where they're heading, but it might be another location. I just can't think of any other location, you know, that would be, you know, suited for him personally, right? Okay, so anyway, also Aka Inu brings up something involving Rox. He brings up Rox's second coming. And that's a horrifying thing, as we've heard earlier from Garp, you know, back during Reverie, he was talking about this with the other Vice Admirals, like, yeah, back in the day, about 40-some years ago, in this chapter we find out it was actually 38 years ago exactly, Rox was like the big leader of the sea, you know, it was his era before it was Roger's era, and Roger and him actually butted heads a few times, right? And it was Garp that defeated him, at least that's the official story that the Marines are handing out to the world, you know, Garp defeated him, and that's how he got the epithet Garp the Hero. I always assumed he got the hero title because he's the one that brought in Goldie Roger, right? Roger didn't really turn, well, he didn't get captured, he turned himself in, you know what I mean? But, you know, the government would definitely spin it away where it's like, oh no, yes, Monkey D. Garp, he's the one that brought in the Pirate King, and we'll give him the title of the hero. But no, he got that title long before Roger ever turned himself in, and he found the One Piece and all that stuff, right? So basically, Aka Inu relays the information to Fujitora that Kaido and Big Mom have formed their alliance. And Fujitora just has a moment where he's just like, keep in mind, their ship is still under attack by this Sea King. Fujitora just has a moment where he just looks up and he's just like, and he just opens his eyes just a little bit, and he's just like, you know, it's like, oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. You know, I don't know if Fujitora is maybe having a moment here where he's like, oh man, damn it, YONKO alliance, huh? Well, maybe the warlords would have come in handy for this one moment, you know, just like, maybe we could have used the warlords to take care of this one particular incident, and then we could have abolished them, because they're having this conversation like, well, it's all in the hands of the SSG and science now. Oh, by the way, yeah, Kaido and Big Mom formed an alliance, and we found out this information, like, a week after we abolished the warlords. Like, oh, crap. So it's like the Marines are just finding out about this now. And how they're finding out about this, I would assume, is because of X-Drake, you know, working undercover as a member of SWORD, which means that SWORD's operations, you know, the information that they find, it's not just limited to their select group. They get that information to Aka Inu, although Aka Inu could very well also be a member of SWORD, considering he had that sword tattoo. So that's a possibility there. So right now, maybe the only people that know about this YONKO alliance are, in fact, the high-ranking Marine officials, like Aka Inu, Fujitora, probably the other admirals, maybe the other vice admirals, but they're certainly not, like, relaying this information to the entire world yet. You know, they're not, like letting everybody in the entire world, oh yeah, Big Mom and Kaido formed an alliance at Wano, and this is confirmed 100%, and the world's probably gonna end soon. There was that newspaper article a few weeks ago that, you know, they were in talks with each other, or they were communicating with each other, but I don't think that groundbreaking, earth-shattering news has really spread to the whole world yet of how bad it really is, okay? So anyway, Aka Inu kind of ends out this conversation with a little bit of, not poetry, but a little bit of, you know, literary flair. He's just like, when the rains of disaster come, it pours. You know, which is a little bit more eloquent than I expected from Aka Inu there. He's basically just like, yeah, when one thing goes wrong, everything else goes wrong. Like, it's like Murphy's Law, like the worst possible thing happens, right? So yeah, you know, that's absolutely terrifying, but hey, at least we found out that Aka Inu, he's a little bit more of a wordsmith than we originally figured. He's got the soul of a poet maybe burning inside of him. That's something to be added to his character. You know, he's sitting there in his office doing all of his paperwork, and he's like, nothing can ever really be lost. Nor can it be lost. No birth, no identity, no form, no object whatsoever. That's Walt Whitman right there. That was really touching, Fleet Admiral. Now go and defeat the damn YONKO! Okay, sir, okay, okay. Alright, so now we get to the meat of this chapter. We get to the explanation of not just the bounties, but also a little bit of a background involving rocks. And by the way, it is actually spelled like this. So now we know, because, you know, R's and L's, they're phonetically very similar in Japanese, but no, it's rocks pirates, or the Rocks crew, R-O-C-K-S, with the O being like a skull, like their Jolly Roger. So that was like their symbol that they had when they were sailing around. Okay, now, so we cut over to a different a room inside of New Marineford, okay? And this room is the room that we find out how much hype this series is going to get, okay? This room is also a very perfect representation of how we're reading this chapter as fans. In the place of Oda, we have Sengoku, the wise old member of the Marines. You know, he's been there for decades. He was the fleet admiral, and he's basically addressing the younger members of the Marines. Probably all vice admirals and, you know, rear admirals, high-ranking officials of the Marines are all gathered here in this room. It's actually very similar to the same, it might actually even be, well, not the same room, because that was at, you know, Marineford, the old Marineford. This is New Marineford, but, you know, the room where we first found out Luffy's bounty back in East Blue, you know, where all the, you know, Marines were gathered and Brand New was going over everything like an intelligence report. Very similar to that. So this crowd of young Marines represents us, the fans of One Piece, reading this chapter, because their reactions in this chapter are pretty much the same reactions that you probably all had. You know, they're like, what? What? Really? Now this is involved? Now we're finding out this? Well, I'm feeling dizzy. Yeah, so that's pretty good. And Oda as Sengoku is up there just telling them all this information, just handing out exposition there. You have also Sengoku's goat, which is present in this room, and the goat represents your household pet that is probably staring at you, wanting you to pay attention to it, but instead you're not, rather than you're paying attention to the One Piece chapter right now. And then at the very end, we get Aka Inu barging in, with Aka Inu representing your parent slash guardian slash loved one, bursting into the room and like, what are you doing in here? Go to work, or go do this, or do chores. And you're sitting there crying at the, you know, reading your manga chapter. Like, it's just so beautiful, I can't. So yeah, that's what this room represents. Okay. So, Sengoku starts by talking about the history of rocks, okay? So, many decades ago, many moons ago, before you had all your Monkey D. Luffy's and your Eustace Captain's kids wandering around, okay, you had the Rocks Pirates, alright? And they actually got together on the Beehive Island, which is where Blackbeard is having his home base right now. They got together on the Beehive Island, the Pirate Island, that's why it's called the Pirate Island. In fact, the island has that giant skull-shaped mountain, that was probably carved by the Rocks crew. In fact, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if that's how they got their name. They all got together on this one island, and they formed an alliance, and they made the Rocks crew, and they had this giant mountain there, and they used their epic powers to sculpt the island mountain into a giant skull, and they called it the Pirates Island, okay, or the Beehive, alright? So that's the origin of that island, right? Anyway, they all got together, and we already kind of knew this, it was strongly implied, but Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom, back in their younger years, were all members of Rocks' crew, okay? Not only them, but also Shiki the Golden Lion. I am so glad Oda remembered him, because it felt like after Strong World, because when Strong World was being released, everybody was freaking out over Shiki. And we had One Piece Chapter 0, and I think Shiki was mentioned in the Impel Down arc. He was the only person confirmed to have escaped Impel Down, aside from Morley, but, you know, before Luffy broke out with everybody, you know, in the actual storyline, you know, it was Shiki. So he was mentioned a few times, but after Strong World kind of was released and after the hype died down, you don't really talk about Shiki anymore. Shiki really hasn't been mentioned, but he gets mentioned here in this chapter, and I love that. So Shiki is canon, yes. We're probably going to see him again, even if it might just be in a flashback. Yes, that's good. All right, but not just the Golden Lion Shiki. We also had the Silver Axe. No idea who that is. That character's never been mentioned before. There was, I will say this, remember back during Logtown, it was an anime-only filler part of that arc, where Luffy wanders into that pub, that bar, and I think, what was his name? Raoul, the old dude that was sitting there wearing the cap, and he was like talking about how epic Roger was, and how the pirates these days aren't anything compared to Roger. Glug, glug, glug. And, you know, that was, you know, it was filler, but I like that moment, because that was like a passing of the torch sort of deal. Luffy was kind of hanging out where Roger used to drink, and that was a nice little moment there. Well, Raoul, that old barkeep, did mention there was a guy named Silver, I think. You know, like this really terrifying pirate of old days. So, you know, the names are still similar. Maybe it's a different epithet. I mean, I know it's a filler character, but, you know, you can connect the dots there. Even if not, I mean, there's Silver Axe and another pirate in the filler, Silver. You could just like, oh, okay, that's who they are, and you just connect it back in your head canon, right? Captain John, who we are acquainted with, that's the character that was turned into a general zombie by Moria. We actually saw Captain John, at least his corpse, on Thriller Bark. He was one of the general zombies that attacked. Eventually ended up getting flattened by oars. But Buggy did, you know, claim his armband from Luffy because, you know, they got the treasure from Thriller Bark. Captain John's armband was in there. Nami gave it to Luffy, or Luffy was like asked to have it, and Nami's like, I don't care, I have all this treasure, you can have this armband. And then Luffy gave it to Buggy to help him through Impel Down. And then Buggy, apparently, I guess it's been 2 years, I guess he has found Captain John's treasure in the intermediate time to help him bolster his Warlord game, which he doesn't have anymore, so it'd be nice if he had some treasure to fall back on, some retirement plan, because now he's being chased after by the Marines. So we know about Captain John, so he was part of that crew. And also we got Wang Zhi. Wang Zhi, guys! The Wang Zhi! Oh man, I've been waiting forever for them to talk about Wang Zhi. Alright, so the Wang Zhi. You want to know about Wang Zhi? I'll tell you what about Wang Zhi. They say Wang Zhi, he walked up to a volcano and kicked it. And then he immediately died because that's a stupid thing to do. No, I'm just kidding. We've never heard of Wang Zhi before. You know, I think the idea here is that Oda might be taking, because there were pirates all over the world. You know, there were, you know, pirates that operated in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. There were pirates that operated around Europe, but there were also pirates that operated around, you know, Japan and the Asian countries, right? So maybe that's Oda just taking references from all over the world because, you know, Roger was like a stereotypical piratey pirate, like, yarg, I'm Goldie Roger. So maybe the pirates in that old era were all much more like the typical pirates that lived in our world, right? So yeah, he's throwing like an Asian pirate kind of character in there. I like that. Okay, that's cool. So all of the Marines that are hearing about this, though, they're surprised, like, what? Huh? The Golden Lion was part of this crew? They're acting like this is the first time they're ever hearing about this. So apparently the Marines and the world government, they really tried to bury this information about rocks. You know, this is like a major crew that existed, but apparently, according to even like the Marines, you think if anybody would know about the Rocks crew and what they did, it would be the Marines. They're hearing about this like it's like some, oh yeah, Rocks, that was some legendary pirate that lived a long time ago. He might have not even existed. But now Sengoku is telling them all this information. Sengoku knows because he lived through it. He was there. You know, he was in his prime when this shit was going down. These Marines were probably like, you know, still like toddler age while this was happening. Some of them probably weren't even born yet, you know? So, you know, this is like a moment where the world government's like, yeah, okay, Rocks existed. We're just gonna shove it under the rug so people don't know about it and just, you know, stuff it in the annals of history. And considering what we've learned about the world government and how they act, especially how they acted to Ohara, you know, that's definitely their MO. It's anything that is not beneficial to them, anything that doesn't paint them in a positive light, or, you know, especially, we're gonna find out something later here, what happened, why they would want to shove it under the rug. But that's what they'll do. They'll just be like, nope, it never happened, just throw it in the annals of history, and the world government has the power to make it nothing more than just a legend, a campfire story, a meme, nothing else. You know, did Rocks exist? Maybe. It's a nice story to tell your children, but beyond that, they didn't actually know it was real, and now they're finding out about this, right? Yeah, the Rocks crew and the Marines had a final epic battle which like rocked the entire world to its core, and this final battle took place on an island called God Valley. Not God's Valley, God Valley. Now, in the spoilers that I originally read for this, it was explained that God Valley was part of Elbaf, but that was a misconception. It's not part of Elbaf. It's its own island called God Valley, and we don't actually know where it is because apparently this battle between the Rocks crew and the Marines was so epic, it literally, the island ceased to exist afterwards. It's now a mirage island, a phantom island. They don't even know where it's at anymore, which is why none of the Marines are even like, God Valley, we've never heard of that. Where's that at? Where's that on a map? And Sengoku's just like, you can look all over, you will not find it, because ever since that battle, you know, 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago, like 38 years ago, after that battle was over, it's gone. You know, we can't find it anymore. We don't even know if it exists. So either the battle was so intense, the island itself was completely obliterated, or there's something else, because the island is called God Valley, there's probably something very unique about it, or you could have just called it God Valley because of the battle that went on there, but it seems to imply the island was called that before the battle. There might be something else to this island, you know, it's kind of more of a mysterious island. Also, this could honestly be the last island. This could be the last island in that the log post points to, maybe, maybe not. This could be another island that the Straw Hats have to, you know, visit at this point, because I was going down the roster of islands they have to visit, and you're thinking, okay, they have to visit Elbaf, they have to visit Raftel, but now we have this other island that's been mentioned, God Valley. It's like, I would definitely want them to visit that place. We see the island, and it just seems to be really high cliffs. You know, not unsimilar to Kenzen Island, the homeland of the Longarm tribe, actually. It looks very similar to that. But yeah, that's God Valley. And then we get a scene of young Garp just battered and bloody, and his fists, his knuckles are bleeding. We just see him in the past, just after this big epic brawl with the Rocks crew. And Sengoku explains to the Marines, they're just like, at this point the Marines are eating popcorn. They're just like, oh my god, the story is so cool. You know, I don't even, you know, the whole reason I joined the Marines, you know, was to hear this story. And I'm just like, I'm feeling it too, guys. I'm feeling it too. So they're hearing the story and everything. Sengoku is like, that's the reason Garp got the epithet of the fist. However, he doesn't really like to talk about it all that much. And the other Marines were like, well, why doesn't he like to talk about it, Sengoku? Please tell us. And so he goes on to explain. He's like, well, there's two reasons. Number one, Garp, you know, if you ask him about it, he will tell you the facts. Like Hina asked him about rocks. You know, he's like, hey, Garp, what about rocks? And Garp was like, oh, yeah, go rocks. I'm surprised you even know about him, Hina. Yeah, he lived about 40 years ago, and yeah, he was a troublemaker back then, and he was really strong, but the Marines beat him down, and, you know, that was it. End of story. He doesn't really go into great detail here. So the reasons he doesn't really go into it, though, is because Roger actually helped him with the battle. So that's kind of like something the world government never wants to let the people of the world know about. You know, like that the Pirate King, Goldie Roger, and the Marines were working together at one point, which is already a big taboo, to take down a pirate that the Marines could not handle themselves. An even bigger, you know, failure from the Marine side of things, okay? But oh my god. I want you to picture that. We don't even... This Rocks dude... Is this like a Kaguya thing, by the way? Is this gonna be a thing where we get to the final island, we get to Raftel or Laugh-Tale or whatever, and we find the One Piece, and it's like, oh my god, this is great, we found it! And then Rock shows up guarding the One Piece this entire time. He was on Laugh-Tale. They thought he was dead, but he's like, nope, I'm still alive. This mysterious character that you didn't find out about until 900 and something chapters into the story. I'm the final villain now. Cue Persona 5 battle music in the background, like... I'm like, because I'm kind of getting vibes from this, you know? Because Sengoku even mentions, like, Rocks, well, he might be dead. I'm like, really, Sengoku? Are you sure? Are you sure? Because this is really feeling like a Kaguya moment. You know, we find out, oh yeah, Kaguya, she was this goddess of all jutsu, this rabbit goddess, lived hundreds of years ago, but yeah, she's gone. You don't have to worry about her. Madara's the real problem. It's like, yeah, it's a business. See what happened. Okay. So tuck that in the back of your head there, but yeah, so that's the one reason, though, Garp doesn't tell anybody about it. He can't just let that information go. But it also does explain how Garp and Roger had a good friendship together. That explains why Roger trusted Garp to take care of his unborn son, Ace. right? When he was in Impel Down and Garp met him, Roger just, you know, he probably had a conversation. It's like, hey, Garp, come on, man. We've been through so much. Remember that time we joined up together and we beat the crap out of rocks? Garp was like, yeah, those were the days. Yeah, that was back when my fisting was at full power. And it's like, yeah, you know, okay, so take care of my unborn son. All right, sign out later. You know, like, so that speaks volumes about Garp's and Roger's relationship with one another right there. But it explains why when Hina talks about, you know, rocks to Garp, he can't just like, oh yeah, Hina, rocks. Yeah, well, back in the day, me and Roger teamed up. You know, those words alone, not good to speak out loud, right? So, the second reason, though, is he did that to protect the Celestial Dragons. We find out here, because Garp is a member of the Will of D, we find out the Will of D is, of course, people that are really striving toward freedom in this world. Freedom in the sense that Luffy wants it, or freedom in the sense of, like, Blackbeard, who wants to destroy everything. You know, freedom has a lot of different meanings here, but the people of the Will of D are, you know, they desire that freedom, okay? So, it's a little weird, I always thought, for Garp, because he's the only member of the Will of D that was also a member of the Marines. And it's just like, oh, he wants the most freedom, but he's joining the Marines. Seems counterintuitive because the Marines are in direct control of the world government, the Tenryubito, and all that stuff, right? Well, we find out here that not necessarily all the Marines are, but once you become an admiral, you are basically under the thumb of the Tenryubito. And we know this because whenever the Tenryubito get attacked in any way, shape, or form, it's an admiral that comes to their aid. So Garp, he could never become an admiral. You know, he was offered the position many, many times, but he always refused it because he knew that if he joined, if he became one of the admirals, then that means he would have to listen to whatever the Tenryubito commanded him to do, no matter how messed up or nefarious it was. Alright, even if it meant, like, you know, Garp, one of the Celestial Dragons ordered you to go and wipe out an island. You have to go do it. And Garp doesn't want to do that. It's just against his moral code to do that, alright? Probably when Garp joined the Marines all those years ago, you know, when he was, like, in his teenage years, I think he was in his early 20s, he didn't know about all this stuff, you know? It's just like, I'm gonna join the Marines to make the world better, and then as he rises through the ranks, he eventually finds out really what the real situation is here, right? So it's like, well, I'm already in the organization, you know, I don't want to become an admiral, but I can't just leave, you know, because this is what I do. And, you know, he does save the world from a lot of nefarious pirates. I'm sure if him and Roger did not defeat Rocks at that moment, you know, the world might be in a way worse off place right now. You know, it might be sheer anarchy ruled by pirates everywhere, which that's not a good thing either. You know, the world being controlled by the Tenryubito, not a good thing. The world being controlled by pirates like Blackbeard or like Rocks back in the day, also not a good thing, alright? So yeah, it's like a happy medium you have to find somewhere there. That's what the Revolutionary Army's trying to get, you know, trying to have a happy medium. But anyway, yeah. And I love the people in the crowd. The people in the crowd are like, what? What? Now the Tenryubito are part of this story? Where did they come from? Pass the soda! This is crazy. This is insane. Alright, let me regather myself here. Okay, we get to see a scene with Roger and Garp teaming up and fighting against the Rocks crew, which Big Mom, and by the way, we don't get to see all of them in, like, full view. We just get to see them in silhouette, okay? But we do see the silhouette of Big Mom kind of looking pretty hot, so we're assuming, you know, that we saw Oda draw her at age 28, so this was probably around that age. Let's see, she's, well, actually, yeah, she's 68 right now. So 38 years ago, when the Rocks crew would have been defeated, means that she would have been 20. No, 30. I can do math. Hold on. It takes me a while. This is a hype chapter, all right? My brain's working here. All right, yeah. 68 minus 38 is 30. Yes. So, if that's the case, then yeah, that would make sense. You know, she was part of Rox's crew. Maybe in her late teens, she joined up, and, you know, throughout her 20s, she was part of this. And then after that was defeated, after Rox was defeated, she was like in her she was 30 or getting into her 30s. And then she started her own crew after that. You know, her own proper YONKO crew over the years. Okay, so that lines up with that there. But yeah, we get to see this. Also, we see Roger once again just wielding a cutlass in battle. We don't know how he fought, if he used hockey primarily, if he had some other weird power. I don't think he had a devil fruit, but maybe he did. But we just see him again charging against the Rocks crew wielding a cutlass, and then Garp is rushing at him with just his fist, you know, because he's Garp, right? Oh, man. Can you just imagine, like... Okay. This is a game changer, you understand. Like, we always thought of Roger as like #1 strongest pirate that ever lived. Like he was the king of the pirates in his heyday. So he had to be the strongest. But this confirms otherwise. No. Even at this age, you know, because Garp and Roger, Garp is like 78 right now. I'm going off my memory here, so I might be off a little bit on the numbers. But Garp is 78 right now, let's just say that. So 38 years ago, he would have been 40. He's 40. Okay, he's 40. And then, you know, Roger would have also been around that same age. I forget how old Roger would have been right now, but they would have been around that same age, right? Okay, so that was like their heyday and stuff. Rox was still stronger, or the force of Rox's crew was stronger. But I don't think that still doesn't count, because it's not like Garp and Roger went up against them by themselves. I'm sure Garp had his whole fleet backing him. Roger had his whole crew. Roger, like, he had his pirate career lasting since he was like in his early 20s when he met Rayleigh, and all the way, the final voyage is where Shanks, you know, and Buggy come into play, because they were like 12 years old at that point. And then you had freaking Crocus. He joined up during the final voyage, so he wasn't there yet. But definitely Rayleigh was there. Probably Scopper Gabon was there. So this was a long time ago, but still, man, this crew was strong. Okay. So anyway, we talk a little bit about God Valley, and the Marines are curious, like, where is it? And Sengoku's like, it's gone now, you won't find it on any map, we don't know where it is. The island's existence, that has all vanished. Oh my god, is God Valley the ancient kingdom? Oh! Damn, I'm sorry if this is really scattershotted, I'm sorry if I'm blowing out your eardrums here, but God Valley might be the ancient kingdom. Oh my god, I mean, okay, we did get an image of what the ancient kingdom looked like back in, you know, the O'Hara flashback, and it doesn't look exactly like God Valley. In fact, it doesn't look anything like God Valley, because God Valley has really tall cliffs, and the ancient kingdom definitely didn't have the tall cliffs like that. Honestly, God Valley looked, I mean, the ancient kingdom looked a lot more like Raftel, if anything else. But maybe it could be. Oda always does redesigns and stuff all the time. Maybe he's like, yeah, maybe that's the image that the scholars of O'Hara thought it would be, but maybe that it looks completely different than that. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that was just one section of it. I don't know. But a mysterious island, the existence the world government desired very much to keep secret, has completely vanished. Yeah, I'm feeling it. Are you feeling it now, Barry? Are you feeling it now? All right. Whew. Okay. So, he does mention he was Roger's first and perhaps greatest enemy. So the fact he had to team up with Garp, you know, means that neither of them could take care of Rox on their own. We get to see an image of what Rox looked like. He has, like, apparently dreadlocks there, very demonic face, wielding a sword, but he's in silhouette, very high collar, apparently. He was a big fan of the high collar. But his, we find out his full name is not just Rox, of course, but his full name is Rox D. Zebek. It's an X, which X names are the coolest. I don't care who you are. Names with an X and a Z are the coolest names to exist. So it's Zebek. And I've heard of Zebek before. I've heard that before, that word before. I don't know where, but I've definitely heard it before. I don't even know if it's from a manga, but I've definitely heard that word before. But anyway, yeah, Sengoku does reaffirm that he's no longer in this world, but he was one of the pirates from the time that carries that Will of D, all right? So we've known about this. You know, the Will of D has been carried on throughout the centuries. Rox might have been very much like the Blackbeard of his day. Rox trying to take over the whole world. Blackbeard trying to kind of do the same thing. Blackbeard is even based in Beehive Island, which is where Rox formed his crew. The way that Sengoku talks about that really quick is they just kind of got all together like a motley crew of pirates, and they're just like, all right, everybody, we're all really strong pirates. You know, Gold Lion, Silver Axe, Captain John, Wang Ji, and me, Rox. Oh, also Big Mom, Whitebeard, and Kaido. Yeah, we're all really strong pirates. Let's just take over the world. And the way Sengoku talks about it, it was a very kind of, like, very rowdy crew. It was not a crew that got along maybe super well, but their power spoke for itself. And that's what really mattered back during that time period. Back in a time period when, the Great Pirate Era had not began yet, but the Grand Line was much more mysterious. This was still taking place all after, like, the Rumbar Pirates deal. So Brook was, he was still floating around in the Florian Triangle when this was all going going on. I really got to go back into the timeline, and I got to look at everything that was going on during this time period. You know, 38, 40-something years ago. I got to look in to see what's all going on here to really understand the full weight of this, if there was anything else that really connects it back. So, yeah. But, yeah, you know, that long ago, Shanks wouldn't have been in the picture. He wouldn't have even been born yet. I think Shanks is 39, so he would have been, like, 1 back then. So, yeah. Okay. But anyway, now we move on to the main event. Yeah, that's right. All that stuff we just talked about with rocks, that was just the headliner, guys. This is the main event. So we're now talking about the bounties of Kaido and Big Mom. And it's like, well, you know, 38 years ago, they were really strong, but they're even stronger now. All right, so their powers, their influence has even increased since then. Sengoku turns to Brand New, who is the intelligence operative of the Marines. And I'm glad it's Brand New, because Brand New is the one that first revealed Luffy's bounty to the world, 30 million back at East Blue. So I'm glad that Brand New is going to be the one that's going to reveal what the bounties of the YONKO are. And, you know, isn't it just kind of funny? Because, you know, this information, knowing the bounties of some of the strongest pirates that have ever lived, Roger, Whitebeard, the YONKO, like, the people in the One Piece world, this is apparently common knowledge, right? Because these are the most well-known pirates ever. Probably the YONKO wanted posters are probably posted in every single Marine base all over the world. The Marines all know what their bounties are. Anybody that reads the paper probably knows what the bounties are. Roger was the single most famous pirate that ever lived, so, you know, people would probably be sitting in taverns like, man, did you hear the story about Roger? Yeah, his bounty was crazy. Yeah, what was it again? Glug glug. I have no idea. I don't know either. Hey, Bert, do you know what Roger's bounty was? I don't know. Nobody knows what Roger's bounty was. No, it's like everybody should know in the world of One Piece what their bounties are. It's just we are never privy to that information. Till now. All right, so Brand New lays it all out. First, he mentions the Shichibukai. He mentions how they're reevaluating the pirates that are now the ex-warlords, and now they're going to be issuing them new bounties. So that's good. So now we'll find out what, you know, number Mihawk should have. So I'm thinking 75 billion. Minimum, you know, maybe 75 trillion for Mihawk, but no, yeah, they're gonna reevaluate everything, because Boa Hancock's earlier bounty was 80 million, but I think it's probably gonna be a lot higher than that now. You know, Mihawk, we never knew what his bounty was, so we're gonna find out that for the first time. Weevil's bounty, I think, used to be in the 400 millions. They're probably gonna increase that, and Buggy's bounty was 15 million. I'm kind of curious of what they're gonna do with that. So yeah, but we don't know about the ex-warlords, the new ex-warlords bounties, but we do find out about the Yonkos. But before we get to that, I have to talk about Den Den Mushi. Come on, just let me have this, okay? So, you know, just really quick, I like how Oda does the Den Den Mushi because we see how projectors work. So you take a Den Den Mushi, and you know, the Den Den Mushi, they're snails, so they have 2 eyes. And so what Brand New does is he picks up a wanted poster, and one of the eyes of the Den Den Mushi looks at the wanted poster, and then the other eye projects it on a projector screen, kind of like how those things in elementary school that you have. I don't know if you use them anymore, but you put things on the glass, and then it uses light refraction to reflect on a bigger image on the... Okay, we'll get to the Yonko bounties. I'm sorry. Okay. I like that. All right. So we first find out about Blackbeard. We already knew his bounty, but Brand New goes into exposition like he's been rehearsing this for a play or something. And he's just like, "Ah, yes, the pirate Blackbeard, the one that will plunge this world into darkness." Am I getting this right? Yes. Okay. Yeah, I was practicing this last night, guys. Okay, hold on. He became a Yonko about a year ago. He's current based as, you know, Beehive Island. He's got a lot of really strong subordinates. You know, the prisoners from level 6 are in his crew. He's got a bounty of 2,247,600,000. So we already knew that. Very impressive bounty, all right? 2 billion. Up until this chapter, that bounty was the highest bounty in the entire story that we've ever heard about. Until this chapter. So buckle in for this, kids. Next, we find out about Shanks. That's right, we're not even doing Kaido and Big Mom first. We're getting right to Shanks right after Blackbeard. Shanks is a man who's been a Yonko for about 6 years now. All right, stop. 6 years. That means 12 years ago, 10 years before the start of the story, but 12 years ago until this current storyline, when Shanks arrived at Fuchsia and they had the whole thing with Luffy and giving him his straw hat, he was not a Yonko at that point, all right? That was something that was ambiguous for a very long time. Shanks became a Yonko 6 years ago. We don't know what event made him into a Yonko 6 years ago. It might have been his duel with Mihawk. Maybe Shanks and Mihawk had a duel 6 years ago, and at the end of that fight, the world government decided, yeah, he's definitely going to be a Yonko from now on. For that particular thing, I actually did go back and look at the timeline to see what was going on 6 years ago, to see if there's anything linked up. The only thing that happened back then 6 years ago was that was the year that Frankie received the Pluton blueprints from Iceberg. That was also the year where Robin joined up with Crocodile. But beyond that, nothing else really big was going on in the world. But it might have been very well the same time that Shanks and Mihawk had their clash, and that made Shanks well known to the world as this really powerful pirate, and they made him a YONKO. Could have been also the same time Mihawk was made into a warlord. Very possible. Okay, so he says that, yeah, Beckman and Rue and Yasop, they've all won their own fame. They all have really high bounties. In terms of like an average bounty, theirs is the highest. So that means that Beckman and Rue's and Yasop's bounties are all probably in the billions. A lot, well, they have to be in the billions, or even higher than that. Like Ben Beckman might have like a 2 billion berry bounty for all we know. So their highest is the average, okay? So all of the top members of Shanks' crew, really high bounties. The only other person in Shanks' crew we know that has a bounty is Rockstar, and it was like 96 million like 2 years ago, so it's probably more than that now. But yeah, there's not very many members of Shanks' crew, remember. He doesn't have like hundreds of people on his crew. He only has like one ship he sails around in, and it's a pretty tiny ship compared to like the Moby Dick and everything, but he's got a really lot of strong customers. So Shanks knows how to pick them. Shanks is like, I don't need a bunch of random fodder soldiers running around the Red Force, okay? I pick you because I know you are strong, or you have the potential to be strong. You get on my crew. So only has probably a few dozen members, but that's all he needs, okay? And so Red Hair Shanks's bounty is 4,048,900,000. Very impressive. That was around the number that a lot of people figured. If Blackbeard was going to be around in the 2 billions, I think a lot of people wanted to put Big Mom and Kaido somewhere in the 3 billion range, and Shanks sitting around in the 4 billion range. That was the way I viewed it. There was a magazine article, I believe in One Piece Volume 6, Magazine Volume 6, there was a little article talking about the Yonko bounties, and of course it didn't give the bounties back then, but it talked about how Kaido and Big Mom's bounties were over 2 billion, which is, yes, that is true, and also how Shanks had the highest bounty out of all of them. That's a little curious and very confusing, because we find out in this chapter, probably to a lot of people's chagrin, I guess, yeah, Kaido and Big Mom have higher bounties than Shanks. A lot of time, people would always consider Big Mom to being like the weakest of the Yonko, so I could feel a lot of people being upset about that. Now, I don't know. They don't say anything, you know, lending to this idea, but isn't it possible that because, like, recently they were in talks to form an alliance, their bounties would have gotten higher? That's possible. But anyway, we find out about Big Mom's bounty. Her current bounty is 4,388,000,000 even. All right? So higher than Shanks. And then Kaido's bounty, 4,611,100,000 berry. So both are higher than Shanks. So far, in terms of the current Yonko that exists, the current 4 emperors that exist in the world, it goes Blackbeard, Shanks, Big Mom, Kaido. I mean, this lends, you know, the idea that Kaido is the strongest beast in the world. You know, if it's one-on-one, Kaido wins. He has the highest bounty out of the current Yonko. That would make sense. But it's also possible that it maybe went up recently. Because that really does bug me, you know. But then again, I mean, Shanks is not trying to do the same things that Big Mom and Kaido are trying to do. And always remember this. Always remember that bounty does not immediately equal battle strength. It's not the same as a power level thing from Dragon Ball. Even in Dragon Ball, that concept didn't really work out to their full power. You know what I mean, though. So, Shanks is not trying to build up a giant crew to get the One Piece and take over the world, or burn the world government down. He's not trying to do any of that stuff. It really just seems like he's just a pirate trying to live his life and just do whatever he wants. But he's really strong, and the world government just can't have him out there doing stuff, right? He could be definitely a threat. But when it comes to Big Mom and Kaido, they are trying to actively do that. Big Mom is trying to make Totland, like, that's a miniature blueprint for how she sees the entire world. She wants the whole world to be like her big Totland, all right? Kaido he's doing his operations in the underworld right now, getting an army of zones. What do you think that is? Just to take over Wano? He's already taken over Wano. He doesn't need to do anything else with Wano. He's amassing a giant army so he can go and get the other road poneglyphs and then get the One Piece and then also take over the world. That's what Kaido and Big Mom are trying to do. Blackbeard is a relatively new member of the YONKO, so I can understand why his bounty's not as high as the others, although I feel like it should be higher because Blackbeard is a major threat. It's just that he's more new to the group, right? So that's probably the best reason I can say why Shanks' bounty is lower than Kaido and Big Mom's. It's their overall goal. You know, the world government knows that's not what Shanks is trying to do, all right? But he's still a threat. Okay, so there's that. And so, the members in the crowd are like, I'm getting dizzy, man. These numbers are getting way too high. You know, it's like, once again, like, what's the point? I mean, you have to have their bounties there because they're wanted pirates. You can't have them not have bounties. But it's like, what bounty hunter in the world could possibly take these guys down? Like, who could possibly do that, right? If the Marines take them down, I don't think the Marines get the bounty. It's only, like, if a bounty hunter or, like, citizens get the bounty. So, yeah. If anything, I can feel like a lot of people probably died because of that, you know? Like, people are looking at, like, oh, yeah, Kaido's bounty is 4 billion, you know, 600 million. I'm gonna go take him down and get all my money. And then he just gets crushed. You know, a lot of people have probably tried that and failed throughout the years. So anyway, yeah, we find out a little bit about the Special Science Group, the SSG. You know, their future will be decided there on if they're going to be stronger than the Warlords or not and how they're going to go. We're going to have to lend a lot of stuff to them to see what kind of weapons they're going to devise there. But now we get 2 bounties of, you know, world-famous pirates that are now deceased. We get the bounties for Edward Newgate, Whitebeard, and the bounties for the Pirate King, Gold D. Roger, or Gold Roger, all right? Are you ready for this? You're not ready for this. You're not. If you just said so, you're a liar. I'm not ready for this, okay? You have to understand, like, this is the thing we've been waiting for forever. Like, this is Roger's bounty. Whitebeard too, but Roger's flippin' bounty. Okay, I'm just gonna say him. Edward Newgate, bounty, 5 billion, 46 million. I don't know why he just didn't round down to 5 billion, but 5 billion, 46 million. Roger's bounty, 5 billion, 564 million, 800,000, and 1 berry. I'm just kidding. It's just, don't add the 1. It's 5,564,800,000 berry, okay? Once again, weird number, but you could have just made it 5,500, you just could have made it 5.5 billion, whatever. So there you go. And brand new confirms in like the very next panel, these pirates right here, Whitebeard and Roger, you know, Roger has the highest bounty that has never been eclipsed. Highest bounty confirmed. No pirate, living or dead, has had a bounty higher than 5,564,800,000. I guess that also includes Rox. I guess Rox's bounty was also not as high as Roger, but keep in mind, like I said, bounty doesn't mean always battle strength, okay? So yeah, that's the situation. And now we end this whole thing out with a little bit of a conversation, which I guarantee Oda just put in there to kind of tie us back to Wano. So I think we're going to go back to Wano next chapter. But we have Akainu come in, and Akainu is like, what are you doing in here, Sengoku? And Sengoku kind of gets up and he's like, oh, you know, I'm just telling these young Marines the stories of old. And the Marines are all like foaming at the mouth and like, it's so awesome, so awesome. So many big numbers. You understand that if you take the bounties of Big Mom's crew, just Big Mom's crew, all of the bounties of Big Mom and Perospero and the other Sweet Commanders, you know, you add all that together, you understand, and Molten Door and everybody, the collective bounty of Big Mom's crew is over 10 billion. Kaido's is probably higher than that too, but we just don't know all the bounty. Like, we don't know King's bounty, but like we know Queen's, we know Jack's. If you add up their bounties, you know, it's like over 7 or 8 billion. It's insane, you know? And also, Brand New does say, he's like, yes, Roger had the highest bounty, but if Kaido and Big Mom were to work in perfect tandem here, their bounties would shoot up way higher than that. Just adding them together, that's over 9 billion. So crazy, right? So that's the biggest threat we're dealing with here. So don't sleep on these guys. Don't look at like freaking Charlotte, Linlin, and Kaido and just be like, oh yeah, Big Mom, weakest Yonko, not a big deal. No, Big Mom and Kaido work together. This is a world-ending catastrophe. It really is. But anyway, you know, Aka Inu comes in and he's like, you know, oh, we can't spare the freaking marine power. We don't have enough marine power to tear those two apart now. It's over. Not over, but it's like we can't stop this kind of thing. It's sort of like this, the train of fate is chugging along and we can't stop it, all right? So that's how that goes there. Now, as Sengoku is walking out of the room past Akainu, he kind of brings up Odin. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, also, you want a little caveat to this story, young Marines? Like, yes we do, Master Sengoku Senpai. It's like, so Red Hair Shanks and Roger and Whitebeard, they all had one man that they were closely tied to, and that was Kozuki Odin. Odin used to be on Whitebeard's crew, but then he joined Roger's crew for that final voyage to Laughtail Island, and, you know, we also find out he was one of the captains of Whitebeard's ship, so he might have headed up he might have headed up Izo's division before Izo took over, because Izo is the commander of the 16th Division, and he's from Wano. Maybe Odin headed up that division, and then after Odin left the crew, went back to Wano, you know, maybe his replacement was Izo. Maybe Izo was a lot stronger than we originally figured, right? Following in the steps of Odin. But anyway, that's beside the point. The point is here that Sengoku just kind of thinks, like, well, you know, I don't think Odin himself has anything to do with this recent development, but there's a lot of really powerful people that are connected to Wano. I wonder why that is. End of chapter. It can't be a coincidence, Sakazuki. There's something going on here. So I think Oda put that there to be a good transition back to the land of Wano. Like, there's a lot of really strong people in Wano. There has to be a bigger reason for this. And then we cut back to Act 3. Oh. I don't... Okay, just... Hold on. Just... Let me get the base plate. Okay, there we go. All right. So what did we learn today, kids? We learned that Oda is the hype master. That's what we learned. You know, I was trying to do this. I was trying to look at like a metaphor. Not a metaphor. I was trying to look at like a comparison, right? Like, this is like in Bleach, if we find out Ichigo's Bankai. Like, that's not even close to this. That's not even near the same ballpark, right? Like... This is information we've wanted to know forever, and now we know it. We have it. I will leave you on somewhat, not a somber note, but I will leave you with this information. So, the fact that Oda is revealing this information now, I think pretty much says that the final saga, the final part of One Piece is on the horizon, guys. Like, this is coming. Like, One Piece has always been broken up into different sagas. Like, we had the East Blue Saga, getting to know the characters, how they interact, how they fight, all that stuff, the dynamic of the world of One Piece. Then the Alabasta Saga, and then we had, pretty much after that, you know, Water 7, Enies Lobby, and then, well, Skypiea was its own thing. And then we had, like, the Marineford Saga, building up this epic war between Whitebeard and the Marines. And then pretty much ever since the time skip, ever since after Fishman Island, since Punk Hazard in 2012, it's been all about Wano Saga, you know? And after Wano is over, I talked about this before in a video, but after Wano is over, I don't think there's going to be another saga, like, in between now and the end. I think the next saga after Wano, that's going to be the ending saga of One Piece, the final part of the story. So that's why Oda is revealing this now. At the end of Act 2, nonetheless. You'd figure, like, if he was going to reveal this information, it would be, like, after Wano. If you were going to tell me, yeah, after the end of Wano, you know, freaking... Oda was going to reveal all the bounties of Kaido and, you know, Whitebeard and Roger and everybody, I could buy that. Like, oh yeah, this big epic samurai arc fighting against Kaido. At the end of that arc, we finally find out all their bounties. Yeah, that makes sense. But no, we find out about it halfway through the arc, right? Would have made sense, too, for, like, around chapter 1000, because if Wano is as long as I think it's going to be, it could have been around chapter 1000 we could have found it out. But whatever, I mean... Oda, it's his manga, guys. It's his world. It's his world. We're just living in it, all right? So, yeah. I think I can maybe make one, maybe two videos about this. Maybe two. Probably, nah, there's probably 1.5. No, there's going to be a lot of videos about this. This is this is a really big event, and I hope you all take solidarity. Let's come together here. Let's all hug it out. Come on, guys. We're all part of this. You know, there's people that have problems with different aspects of One Piece. You know, some characters you like, some characters you don't like, some fights you like, some fights you don't like. You know, the Big Mom is the weakest Yonko. Shanks should have the highest bounty out of everybody. But you know, we got the information. You know, we have this now, and we're going to be moving into really big moments. Like, how do you follow up something like that? Like, Oda has to have a plan for this. He's like, all right, I'm gonna drop all of these bounties in this chapter, so guess what, guys? Act 3, you better go to your doctor, you better get some heart medication, some stress relief, you better figure out some way to handle this, okay? Because your blood pressure is gonna go through the roof. You know, then Act 3, when the battle gets into Act 3, we're gonna have little disclaimers at the beginning of the chapters. Like, every single chapter is gonna have Nami walk out, you know, talking to the audience, like, hey everybody, I'm Cat Burglar Nami, how you doing? Just letting everybody know, along with my buddy Chopper here. Chopper pops in, Chopper's like, just letting everybody know, make sure to, you know, monitor your blood pressure, and if you're starting to feel a little dizzy, please put the chapter down. You know, like, it's like a really cute moment, like a PSA between the two of them. Oh, man. Okay, well, I gotta go edit this. I have to go edit. I have to go plan some other stuff. The bounty series that I did, you know, like the bounty videos where I talk about that stuff, I think we did 4 of them so far. That's gonna be making a return. That'll probably be the next video I make. Bounties 5! Fire Island. You know, Bounties 5. You know, holy crap, we know Roger's bounty. That's what I'm gonna title the video. Alright, so that'll be coming out, and then some other stuff talking about Rox's crew in greater detail. We're going to examine that. We're going to take a look at the timeline and see what's all going on there. But yeah, what you got anything you want to say here, Buggy Chopper? It's like, just... It's a good time to be alive, guys. It is a good time to be alive. Alright, this will be Tekking signing out. Later. Oh man, I think I stepped in dog shit when I did that. Oh man, but hey, the alternative is I accidentally fell on my back and cracked my skull off my porch, but hey, I'll take a little dog poop. Yeah, I can clean that off. These are new shoes too, damn it.